My Worst Night in Morocco. True story. Rabat, October 2022. I've never told anyone what happened to me that night in Rabat. Not until today. I know it sounds crazy, but I swear, it's real. I think something followed me that night. It was a Sunday night, around midnight. I was sitting at a cafe in Agdal, sipping coffee and scrolling on my phone. When I decided to go home, I couldn't find a single Uber available. I wasn't too worried. I knew the neighborhood well, so I chose to walk. To save time, I cut through a narrow side street parallel to Avenue Hassan II. It's a shortcut I've used since I was a kid. That's when I saw him. A man, standing still, wearing a black hoodie, his back facing me. At first, I didn't think much of it, but something about him froze my blood. He wasn't moving, not swaying, not shifting, just frozen, like a statue in the middle of the alley. I slowed down, and that's when he laughed. But it wasn't a normal laugh. It sounded wrong, low, mechanical, almost artificial. Not loud, but enough to send chills down my spine. I crossed to the other side of the street. I just wanted to go home. I picked up my pace, and just before I turned the corner, I heard it. A whisper. Clear. Someone behind me whispering my name. Ihab. My heart stopped. I didn't look back. I ran. All the way to my apartment. Up the stairs, slammed the door shut, locked it twice, locked all the windows. I was sweating, breathing hard. I told myself it was just some crazy guy playing a trick. But then, I looked through the peephole. He was there, standing right in front of my door. Silent, still, not knocking, just staring. I grabbed my phone to film him, but the camera wouldn't work. The screen was black, not from the dark. No, it's like the camera couldn't detect anything, as if no one was standing there at all. I looked again through the peephole. Still there. Tried to film again. Still black. I tried to call someone, anyone. No signal. Inside my own home, where I always have full 4G and Wi-Fi, but now, nothing. I closed my eyes, tried to breathe. 2 seconds. Then, looked again. Gone. Just like that. No sound, no trace. The next morning, I went to the building's security guard. I needed proof. I wanted to check the surveillance cameras. Maybe just seeing myself come home would help me feel sane. But on the footage, I never came home. No footage of me walking down the street. No footage of me entering the building. No sign of me at the door. It was like that night never happened. Except it did. I remember everything. And since that night, something's changed. Some nights, I wake up suddenly at exactly 3 a.m. The silence feels heavy, too heavy. And just as I start to fall back asleep, I hear it. The whisper. Ihab.
The man behind the door. This story stretches across several years and still chills me when I think about it. It all began when I was just 14 years old. I live in a very quiet neighborhood in Nice, known for being peaceful and mostly inhabited by older, upper-class residents. Our apartment has a heavy, armored door that makes loud noises when shaken, usually by the wind. In our place, you can hear everything from the hallway, and people in the hallway can hear everything from inside. Often, when my parents go out and I don't feel like joining them, I stay home alone. Usually, I sit in the living room, reading or drawing. It was a hot June afternoon, one of those unbearable heatwave days. I was in the living room, the only room blessed with an old air conditioner. Suddenly, I heard the front door shake. I didn't panic at first. I thought, it's probably the wind. But then I remembered it was over 34 degrees Celsius, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. In that kind of heat, there's no wind. That's when I noticed something strange. The door wasn't just rattling randomly. It was moving in a steady rhythm, as if someone was pressing against it and then letting go and pressing again. My heart dropped. I slowly tiptoed to the door and looked through the peephole, and that's when I saw him. A man leaning against the door. At that very moment, I heard him fiddling with the lock. I froze in place, too terrified to move. Then the house phone rang. The sound startled me so badly, I let out a scream. That instant, I heard metallic sounds from the lock, followed by the ding of the elevator. He had vanished. That evening, I told my parents and little sister what happened. My dad, surprisingly calm, said something similar happened to him years ago. He had opened the door and yelled at the man to leave, and the intruder ran off. A few months later, I was home again with my little sister. My parents were out. I had just stepped out of the bathroom. Its lock always makes a noticeable click. My sister was standing outside the door, looking shaken. "Shh," she whispered. "Don't make a sound. There was someone in front of the door." She told me that while I was in the bathroom, someone had been pushing on the front door and scratching it. But when she heard the lock click from the bathroom, she realized someone was home, and the noises stopped. This time, we didn't tell our parents. We didn't want to scare them. But from that day on, I began to dread being alone. Eventually, things calmed down. No strange sounds, no weird visitors. Until 3 years later. 2 weeks ago, it happened again, but this time it was worse. It was evening, and I was home alone again. At first, I heard faint pressure on the door, but this time there was more. He started to knock, then scratch the door. Not like a cat, like a person. Slowly, deliberately. I forced myself to stay calm and silently walked up to the door. I peeked through the peephole. At that moment, the man stopped scratching, took 2 steps back, and looked directly into the peephole. I saw his face. A man with dark hair, average looking, nothing special. But the fact that he knew exactly where I was watching from, that made my blood run cold. I reached into my pocket to call my dad, but I hadn't realized my dad's phone was charging on the entrance table right next to the door. I only realized it when his ringtone echoed through the hallway. The man heard it, and then he left. I watched him as he turned toward the stairs and walked away. Since then, nothing. No signs, no noises. I asked my neighbors if they saw anything. Nobody had, and I didn't tell my parents this time either. What could they do? What could anyone do?